All right, guys. Today we are gonna be reacting to the rest of the documentary of the Weasel tracked vehicle firepower for the Paratroopers. Let's jump in.
With conversion to the MELS guided missile system, which is currently being fitted to the Weasel 1, will increase the combat value and be able to take on all known battle tanks in the world.
The TOW-2 can penetrate armor of up to 70 millimeters. But each grenade costs around 180,000 US dollars.
A lot of money, man. That's a lot of money, folks. A lot of money.
In 1990, the first Weasels were delivered to the Paratroopers and were greeted by the rest of the troops with ironic banter.
There were names bandied about like wheel chalk, toy tank, or such like. But that all needs to be seen in overall context, because the vehicle had been built for the airborne troops, and for them it did an excellent job. So when we tank troops made fun of it a little, we didn't really mean it seriously.
The Bundeswehr ordered a total of 343 Weasels. 210 with TOW-guided missiles, including 24 driver training vehicles. 133 of the Weasels were equipped with autocannons. The airborne units were very pleased with their mini-tank.
The vehicle is simple to operate and easy to handle. It's an automatic, you can't really do a lot wrong. The driving feel is similar to a car, a bit smaller and more nimble, almost like a go-kart. Over the ground, it's very agile, quick to react, great fun to drive.
To begin with, the new weapons carrier was only assigned to the Bundeswehr's paratrooper regiments. After the fall of the Berlin Wall and Germany's reunification in 1990, the Bundeswehr went through a phase of restructuring and downsizing. In the course of this first major reform after the Cold War,
man, those landings sound like, bad legs, man. You messing up your legs.
Was eventually also assigned to the light infantry and mountain troops. Units which are at the top of the list for rapid reaction deployment in conflict zones all over the world. For them, the Weasel is ideal as it can be transported quickly and easily, and significantly, once unloaded, it's immediately ready for combat.
We can carry it in any transport vehicle, so it can be deployed worldwide very quickly. Its small size means we can take a relatively large number with us. It directs a lot of firepower, especially in forests and urban areas, because it can follow us where large, wheeled vehicles find it difficult to go.
Since its introduction, it's been part of every larger Bundeswehr mission abroad. The early 90s in Somalia, then in the Balkans, and finally in Afghanistan as well, and has put up a good performance each time, despite its limitations.
It depends on the terrain a little. Water that's too deep should be avoided, as you can see from the height and size of the vehicle. We can't cross very deep ditches either, but we're relatively unrestricted for speed. Up to 80 kilometers per hour possible, and that's what you can do most of the time.
In the early days, however, the combination of darkness and water caused problems.
We were driving through hollows that had filled with water after days of heavy rain. I drove through one dip, looked down and saw the water was almost up to the turret. I got a real fright, pressed the radio button and said, "Weasel, halt." He replied right away with, "Here," and blah, 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 which meant he'd already driven into the hole. Fortunately, the driver was clever and kept his foot on the accelerator and managed to drive out the other side. Had a massive engine failure because water had been sucked in and not air. The crew was soaking wet.
When water gets into the engine, that's it. That's it.
We all ran over to see if they were okay, but then had to try very hard not to start laughing.
Despite such mishaps, the Mini is a genuine all-rounder compared to cumbersome battle tanks. It can, after all, overcome barriers of up to 40 centimeters. And more importantly, it can effortlessly climb up elevations with gradients of up to 60%. And in any little dip, it's practically invisible for the enemy. In addition to fire support and tank combat, this small weapons carrier is, for instance, also used for the surveillance of strategically important points in the terrain. It's capable of accompanying convoys and providing protection thanks to its speed. Whether in the field or fast and furious on the road, it's no bigger than a standard SUV or off-road vehicle.
Wow. Wow. It does go fast, huh? It goes very fast.
And it doesn't only fit inside helicopters. It can also travel as a so-called underslung cargo, suspended below the medium-sized CH-53 transport helicopter. In 1996, as part of a NATO project, the Bundeswehr decides to use the Weasel as its technological showpiece. The project involves diesel-electric drive systems. Engineers from the company Rheinmetall Landsysteme integrated electric drive motors and a reduction gear into the Weasel's rollers. This system enables energy to be recovered through regenerative braking. The power is sufficient to drive up a 60% gradient and continue the climb from a standing start. In addition, the Weasel LLX can accelerate faster than the mechanically driven standard weapons carrier used by the troops. The experimental vehicle is more reliable, has a much higher chance of survival in emergencies, is more economical to run, and is more agile than its mechanical counterpart.
And it's cheaper to make. See, you have to think about that. See, a lot of people don't think about this, but it's cheaper to make.
Even on muddy terrain, the external components of the electronic drive operate reliably and safely. Another important aspect was the integration of a power supply module. This module was to use the entire diesel engine output to supply the Weasel internally with electric power. At the same time, it served as an external DC and AC power source to enable the operation of spotlights or the use of electric tools. The LLX remained a test vehicle only and never went into series production. It did, however, provide the proof that diesel-electric drive systems could also be used by the military. The coastal city of Ostend in Belgium. The location for a multinational evacuation exercise. The scenario: anti-government militias have occupied the town and have taken EU citizens and the German ambassador hostage. Operating together with NATO forces, German paratroopers from Seedorf in Lower Saxony are to overcome the militias and free the hostages. It's a perfect scenario for the Weasel, too.
It's used for the kind of special operation we're carrying out now, meaning that wherever forces are entrenched or where they are deployed, it essentially provides us with precise firepower, either with the 20mm autocannon or the TOW.
In the regiment's maneuver support companies, the paratroopers and their Weasels are constantly on call. Should they ever be needed for a live-fire evacuation mission, the soldiers and their Weasel weapons carriers could leave in no time at all.
For a paratrooper, the combat value is naturally very high because the Weasel is highly mobile, very fast and agile. It follows the infantry wherever the infantry can go. Weasels can be deployed very well in narrow alleys or where roads are not good.
Up to now, though, the Weasel has not needed to prove its effectiveness in a live-fire evacuation mission. For all previous rescue missions, the Bundeswehr decided to deploy only
how small it is, like a little, like nothing, nothing.
Heavily armed infantry.
What's that? What's say? You say what? How many meters? Like 9 meters long? Like, it's not that big.
Not
even that, right? No, that 9 meters, probably 5 meters long. I don't think that's that big.
Terror in Afghanistan in the early 2000s. These propaganda videos show how effectively the Taliban's self-made booby traps could even destroy armored military vehicles.
Wow.
At the height of the NATO and Bundeswehr Afghanistan mission, these explosive booby traps, so-called IEDs, were the #1 killers, as they can be buried and hidden quickly and easily. Nevertheless, to be able to trace them effectively, the Bundeswehr developed a mobile detection system based on the Weasel 1, equipped with a metal detector and ground penetration radar.
The area they can cover is much greater than our handheld devices can currently manage, and soldiers are not exposed to any immediate danger.
As the remote-controlled Weasel works its way through the danger zone, it scans the ground and provides images of the conditions in the subsoil. This allows soldiers to recognize whether there are any conspicuous objects in the ground. In an emergency, as simulated in this exercise, the Weasel 1 is part of a group called Road Clearance Package, along with explosive detection dogs. This is a unit specially put together to use various ways and means of detecting explosive traps on or beneath the road. The special Weasel is the technical sniffer dog, so to speak, alongside its real-life companions. When animal or machine sound the alarm, that's the cue for the Mine Wolf, a remote-controlled tracked vehicle that can be equipped with a range of different attachments to dig up an explosive device.
Initial experiences are very positive because the dangerous job of digging up and exposing the explosives, so far carried out using a pick and shovel, can be done much more effortlessly with this vehicle. And it's also much better for the health of the soldiers involved, as they can now keep a safe distance.
Once explosive and detonator have been separated, the risk for the explosive ordnance disposal team is significantly reduced. An accidental explosion is practically no longer possible. The booby trap is photographed and
Man, that looks like it takes forever, man. Right? It takes forever to just pick up the, well, not pick up the bomb, but you know, you find the bomb. You have to disconnect the bomb from getting active. But then first you have to just excavate the dirt and just pull out the... I think that's kind of dangerous. There has to be a better way.
Documented, so that other units can later be provided with this life-saving intelligence. After that, the experts attach a detonator and destroy the device in a controlled explosion. This is a risky but enormously important task of the explosive ordnance disposal team.
Right now, there's so many in Ukraine. My God, so many.
Soon after the Weasel 1's introduction in the early 1990s, there were demands to develop the weapons carrier further. The prototype of the Weasel 2, developed by Rheinmetall Defense, was above all a larger personnel carrier. Meanwhile, there are many different variants of the Weasel 2. The length varies accordingly, between 4.1 and 4.8 meters. It's between 1.82 and 1.87 meters wide. And its height varies between 1.81 and 2.17 meters. Its weight varies from 4.1 to a maximum of 4.8 tons. This means the Weasel 2 can also be transported by helicopter. The most obvious difference to the Weasel 1 is the additional road wheel. This was necessary to turn the larger and heavier Weasel 2 into a more stable weapons platform. Its armor is better and can now also protect the crew from ABC warfare agents. The first Weasel 2 was ordered by the Bundeswehr in 1995.
Internationally, the Weasel is still a great eye-catcher today. Other nations envy us having this vehicle because there just isn't anything comparable in the whole world.
The liquid-cooled, turbocharged VW four-cylinder TDI engine puts 110 horsepower on the tracks. And although on average, the Weasel 2 is over a ton heavier than its little brother, it can still do 80 kilometers an hour on the road and 50 in the field. Its tank volume is 80 liters. Range, around 290 kilometers on the road and 200 in the field.
Impressive. Such a very good invention. Practical invention. You think about what happened in World War II, World War I. They just wasting resources building these machines, man. And then they just invent this, which is more. I mean, they were still building some of these stuff back in World War II, especially because there were not a lot of resources. But now the idea is there's a more relaxed approach to it. It makes sense. See what happens? Like, this is very practical. Very practical.
In contrast to the Weasel 1, the Weasel 2 is deployed by troops in even greater variations, as these pictures clearly show. The Weasel 1 is used by the Bundeswehr in 3 versions. For the Weasel 2, however, there are 9 different vehicle types.
That's the air defense.
For
right
instance,
here
as an armored personnel carrier for
defense?
4 fully equipped soldiers. For reconnaissance and exploration missions with special observation systems. For joint fire support as a mobile command post. And as a field ambulance to rescue seriously wounded soldiers, even when under fire. Other Weasel 2-based prototypes and test vehicles were developed, but ultimately they never went into series production. The American South, the Yuma Military Testing Facility in the state of Arizona. This is where the Bundeswehr carried out the heat testing for the Weasel 2's light tank mortar system in 2005.
Yeah, bro. It's hot out there. Ooh, we can get up to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. That's probably what, 60 degrees Celsius. I can get up to 60 degrees Celsius, 120 degrees Fahrenheit. That's how hot is that region, man, the country. Golly, it's hot. It's hot.
The light tank mortar is equipped with a 120 millimeter launching tube located in the so-called combat cabin. The light artillery is intended to provide highly mobile fire support for the company's own troops in the combat zone. The automatic determination of direction, height, and position, as well as the fully automatic correction of the weapon position, ensure it is ready to fire quickly and is extremely accurate. The Weasel 2-based system is equipped with a 120 millimeter mortar. Firing range is around 8,000 meters. It can shoot conventional or precision-guided splinter grenades, but also smoke grenades or infrared projectiles to pick out enemy soldiers in darkness. Maximum firing rate is 6 rounds per minute. For its own protection, it has a standard 7.62 millimeter machine gun.
Small but dangerous.
The Hammelburg Military Training Area, home of the Bundeswehr's Infantry Training Academy. This is where the troop trials for the light tank mortar are carried out. Inside the vehicle, a total of 27 mortar shells can be stored, 25 regular grenades, and 2 intelligent so-called terminal guidance projectiles. Intelligent because they seek out their targets independently. The crew consists of a driver, a loader, and the commander.
So 3.
After 60 seconds preparation, the mortar is ready to fire. This enables it to be used for quick changes of position, the so-called hide, hit, run, hide tactics. After the successful trials, a total of 8 tank mortars and 2 carrier vehicles were procured in 2011. The contract was worth around 60 million euros. And yet, subsequently, the Army never actually deployed them. This was allegedly due to changed terms of deployment. The planned sale has so far been unsuccessful. Todendorf firing range on the Baltic coast, around 40 kilometers from Kiel. This is where the Luftwaffe's Air Defense Missile Group 61 is based, equipped with the light air defense system. This consists of reconnaissance and command post vehicles, as well as the Ocelot, all of which are based on the Weasel. The Ocelot is a legacy of the Army Air Defense Force, which was supposed to use it against airborne targets. But in 2012, the Army unit was disbanded. The majority of its tasks and the Ocelot itself were then taken over by the Luftwaffe. The air defense system is used to counter short-range threats from fighter
Like how
jets.
skinny this one is, right? A little bit skinny in the middle. Air defense system. This is what you're gonna need in the future. Have a bunch of those. Cheaper to make, but again, very practical. You just need something that is strong enough that it can carry the air defense system. That's it.
Jets and helicopters. Each weapons carrier has 8 Stinger-guided missiles, armed with infrared and UV target seekers. Once fired, the guided missile finds its target independently at twice the speed of sound. Its range is 6,000 meters. Equipped with a high-luminosity camera, thermal imaging device, and laser rangefinder, the Ocelot can engage targets both by day and by night. As a rule, targets are assigned by the separate fire control radar, which can detect a threat within a radius of 20 kilometers. Ocelot units always fight together in groups consisting of several vehicles, which are led by Central Fire Control.
The task is to carry out central fire control over up to 7 Ocelot weapon systems by radio data transmission. High mobility means positioning the vehicles isn't a problem. So we drive into position, go below the hatch, and put the system into operation within 3 minutes.
Ocelot weapons carriers are equipped with 2 box launchers, each containing 2 Stinger-guided missiles. Each Ocelot crew also has an additional ammunition supply of 4 Stingers on board. In emergencies, they can be loaded into the box launcher in a matter of seconds. To do so, however, the soldiers must leave the protection of the vehicle cabin. The radar scans the airspace for potential attackers. For this exercise, specially developed unmanned remote-controlled drones are used as targets. Before launching the drone, its metal tip is heated to simulate the hot exhaust gases from jet or helicopter engines.
That is impressive, man. This is so impressive, right? That's crazy. Man, these man, wow. It just show you how far we have come when it comes out to warfare. Germans are so good at this. They're so good at this, man. Americans we are good, but when it comes down to inventions, somehow just warfare inventions, like Germans is on top of the list.
The drones are catapulted into the air. Then, specially trained drone pilots take over their control.
It's gas, I guess, right?
On screens, they can monitor the drone's position, height, and speed. Ideally, the 3D airspace surveillance radar will detect the approaching target within a radius of 20 kilometers. Encrypted to prevent interception, the target coordinates are then transmitted to all Ocelot crews. They then align their weapons stations correspondingly and are ready to fire once the targets are within the Stinger's range.
As operators, we're still required to visually detect, identify, and record the target, and then get the LFK, the guided missile, in this case, the Stinger, up and ready for launch.
An integrated secondary radar enables the unit to carry out an identification, friend or foe, using codes transmitted by their own aircraft. The time between the targets being identified and firing the Stingers is no more than 10 seconds. Once the missile has been catapulted out of the launcher, the solid fuel rocket booster ignites.
Wow.
At more than twice the speed of sound, the missile races towards its target.
Wow.
I often speak to pilots who tell me they have a lot more respect for these small, very mobile units than the large air defense weapon systems. So the saying, good things come...
So they're easy to maneuver. I'm telling you, those big bulky tanks are gonna become something of last resort. I'm telling you, first the Weasels are gonna come by and just clean everything, and then you start moving those big tanks, right? Well, I'm telling you, this guy right here, the little guy, dangerous, very dangerous.
In small packages definitely applies to this system.
The next targets are prepared for launch and catapulted into the sky. The drones are deployed specifically and in quite different scenarios. In the course of the exercise, the operators fly their drones towards the air defense systems at various heights and varying approach trajectories, each time providing a new test for the skills of the Ocelot crews. This time, the soldiers are to shoot down the approaching drone without any assistance from the surveillance radar, using their long-range cameras and laser rangefinders. When fired in a combat situation, the missile's infrared target seeker tracks the hot engine. On hitting the target, the 3-kilogram splinter warhead is detonated by a proximity fuse. Thousands of metal splinters puncture the hull of the aircraft or helicopter. The Luftwaffe currently has over 50 of these Ocelots. Hammelburg, home of the Bundeswehr Infantry School. Military and industry have long been working on developing a successor for the Weasel. A high priority here has been given to digitalization and computer-aided networking on the battlefield. This technology carrier is equipped with special reconnaissance camera systems. Remote-controlled drones and robot vehicles are also included, which are integrated into the weapons carrier. These autonomous reconnaissance systems are, so to speak, the soldiers' additional eyes on the ground and in the air. As they send their images back to the...
I don't know if you guys saw. Do you guys saw that we started using the dogs here in the United States? The robot dogs? So the president-elect, Donald Trump, he was in Mar-a-Lago. And they were just covering the perimeters of the mansion. Bro, they have those robot houses. Man, we're already there. We're going to see robots and tanks and AI just going against each other. It's just a matter of time.
Weasel in real time. Not exposing soldiers to unnecessary dangers, constantly monitoring the operational area, and processing very different information quickly is the creed of modern warfare. Paired, of course, with greater firepower.
By the middle of the next decade, we'll have the so-called air-mobile weapons platform, which we hope will also be a similar tracked vehicle, but then with a somewhat larger autocannon and the MEL's anti-tank guided missile.
The digital revolution in the form of artificial intelligence is also conquering the battlefield. This high-tech weapons carrier is equipped with a powerful computer, special software, and a range of different sensors, so that it can also serve as an unmanned autonomous combat robot. But until the German paratroopers receive their future weapons carrier, however it may be equipped, the Weasel remains the Bundeswehr's multi-talent. A miniature powerhouse that at first glance almost looks like a toy tank. But closer examination reveals it to be a dangerous and agile hunter, ideally suited to a wide range of military missions.
Wow, very impressive. Very impressive documentary. Thank you so much for recommending this great piece of information. This is amazing. Wow, AI is already there. AI is already there, right in the corner. Wow. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Hey, you want me to keep reacting to this video? Put them in the Discord. I'll see you in the next one.